I'm Melissa Montan.
And I'm Madeline Pope.
And this is the Cap Table.
Okay, let's get into it. Question 1. Tell the viewers a bit about yourself, your professional background, and the mission of March Capital in 2026.
So I run platform and marketing at March Capital. I've been a venture capital platform professional for a decade now. Wow. So back in 2016, I started my venture career. I was at Deloitte over in London, and I started working with Deloitte Ventures. We were an incubator, kind of building new concepts and taking them to market. So I ran the go-to-market function there, and that really sparked my interest in this kind of startup venture capital world. I moved over to Los Angeles, joined Clocktower Ventures, early stage fintech fund, so seed Series A investments. That was a phenomenal experience, Fund 1. And so as a platform person, I was a bit of a jack of all trades, a generalist, kind of did whatever needed to be done to get the firm off the ground. So learned a lot about the nuts and bolts of venture capital, ultimately moved into platform, which is kind of the catch-all term for portfolio support and growth. Used that to move over to a Series A fund called M13, also based between LA and New York. And that firm did platform at scale. So really leaned into our portfolio companies as a bit of a consultancy, super hands-on, very operational. So got to do it in a really large scale way. And now I'm at March Capital. Joined last summer, heading the platform and marketing team. We are a team of 4, with a couple of interns joining us next week. And we do all the marketing for the firm, all the portfolio support. We interact with all of our founders and help them grow their businesses. And the big thing we do every year is the Montgomery Summit, which is a 2-day summit we hold every March in Santa Monica. How about you? What's your background?
I'm Maddie. I have the pleasure of working alongside Melissa. I've been with March Capital for almost 4 years now, and I lead content and programming for March Capital and for the Montgomery Summit. It's exciting to work alongside you on all of our platform initiatives and whatever platform means that day.
Yeah, exactly, and we'll get into that.
Melissa, explain a little bit more about March Capital and its mission.
So March Capital invests in frontier technology companies at the leading edge of the AI revolution. We've been around for 13 years, 4 funds, about $1.65 billion in AUM. Across those 4 funds, we actually have a really tight portfolio, and that's by design. We have about 30 active companies, so very concentrated. We invest, we double down, we end up with really large positions at the end of the day. And that's really important to our roles in platform in that we can focus. Every company in the portfolio is a focus area for us. We have the capacity as a firm to spend time with them and really dig in and truly partner with them over the long run. We lead rounds, we take board seats, we're very actively involved with these companies over the course of the relationship we have with them. And so when we say we invest in frontier technology companies in the AI revolution, I think the through line, obviously the AI revolution hasn't been around as long as the firm has, which is 13 years. But I think the through line there is we've always been investing at the frontier of the technology revolution that is occurring alongside us. VCs have to respond to the worlds around them, and that's true for us as well. In the early days, we made a name for ourselves in enterprise, and in particular in cybersecurity and in software. CrowdStrike is one of our biggest names, and a handful of other household names. Now, in an AI era, we still remain true to this idea that the enterprise wave is really, really big, and we can get into that, but we're really excited about AI for enterprise. So agentic enterprise is still a very large focus area for us. We're investing in net new companies that are AI native from day one. We have worked really closely with our portfolio to transition from, a SaaS-based model to being truly AI native as well. We've seen a lot of really good success with our companies that have done that. And then what we're really excited about going forward is AI for some new domains. So some areas that are really emerging as a result of this moment that we're in. So for example, physical AI is an area we're really excited about. And we actually just wrote a blog post about this. 2 of our investors, Lucas Pino and Johnny Hooper, we just put it out. It's on our channels. But what's unique about this moment is, software was always in the digital sphere, right? It was always what you experienced through your screen. So naturally that hit knowledge work and the enterprise. And so now we're at this moment where you can look at the physical world. You can look at manufacturing, construction, aerospace, defense, all these areas that have lagged in terms of innovation. And what we're seeing is AI has an opportunity to reinvent this physical world that has kind of fallen behind. And that's because the cost of compute has gone down, the cost of hardware, the rise of manufacturing in the United States in particular, and government's leaning in. Government's signing huge contracts, investing a lot of capital. The capital stack has caught up to this world. So, a bit of a sidebar, but just to say, agentic AI is not just for the enterprise anymore. It's expanding beyond, and that's the really, really exciting part of this moment that we're in. Is there's going to be companies built and business models developed that were never possible until now, and so we're really just thrilled about the future of what's being built.
And you can feel it at the firm too, the excitement, and it's, our roles are very fun. Get to meet these founders who are building incredible things that weren't possible 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. So when you say it's an exciting time to be a technology investor, it's really
the most exciting time as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's fun to support them. All right, moving on to question 3. What does a normal day look like leading the platform and marketing team at March Capital? How do you balance supporting 30-plus portfolio companies while also preparing for major global events like the Montgomery Summit?
Well, I don't know what a normal day is.
Yeah, there is no normal day.
There is no normal day, and I think a lot of people would say that, and particularly in the venture startup world.
And in platform.
And in platform in particular.
Yeah.
I think what's really unique about this world that we exist in, so, 10 years ago, platform was a much more nascent term. It was, some firms had a person kind of filling this role, and it was like, do whatever the investors aren't doing.
Yeah, a one-man team.
A one-man team was very common. You look at platform today, and it's a real differentiator for firms, and I know we'll get into that in a little bit. But this role is something that's evolved because companies now look to their VCs for additional support. So what companies need from us evolves day to day. I think over the last 2 years, it's evolved substantially. I can look over the course of my career of the last 10 years in this venture platform world, and you have to consistently evolve with the moment, whether, it's a zero interest rate environment and capital is abundant or capital is really scarce, makes a difference to how your companies are building and growing and the opportunities they're seeking and the chances that they're taking versus, preserving their cash. And so as a platform person, you react to that. Maybe you're in a moment of growth and you're helping to pour gas on the fire and bring customers into the fold and introduce partnerships, and it's high growth, and that's great. Or maybe it's a position where it's survival, less fun, but sometimes you go through those periods. So that's a bit of the macro view. When you boil it down to the day-to-day, we have to be reactive. Who's in the portfolio? What are they looking to do in that moment? How can we support them? Our companies are early growth into growth stage, and some of them are eyeing up an IPO in the next couple of years. So you meet them where they are, right? And that changes. I will also say, and we can get into the Montgomery Summit, we do have seasonality to what we do. So we host this event, 2 days, March, Santa Monica. We bring 1,200 people together. So it's both, a decently large-scale event, but also hyper-curated. It's invite only, everybody's VP and above, often C-suite, founder level. That's by design. It's meant to be 2 days of business development, thought leadership, and we have a real pilgrimage of people that come. This will be our 24th year. In 2027. So it's a bit of an institution at this point, and people make the pilgrimage because they trust that the people in the room are really high quality. As a platform team at March Capital, most of what we do originates from network. And that makes a lot of sense at the early growth stage because these are real companies with real revenue and real customers, real traction. We're not necessarily like teaching them how to do or what to do. They know, right? They've gotten to a certain scale. We're more, to use the term again, pouring gas on the fire. We're getting the right people in the room to interact with them. We're making the right introductions. A lot of that happens in the 2 days of the Montgomery Summit, but it also happens throughout the course of the year. So we put our portfolio companies on stage. We introduce them to customer prospects, to go-to-market partners, to hyperscalers like AWS and Microsoft and Google. to infrastructure players like NVIDIA, have also been a really active investor. But over the course of the year, we manage those corporate relationships and bring those into the fold for the portfolio.
Yeah, and we try and produce content that, is relevant for a founder at any stage in their journey. So, whether that's what was the issue at the time when they were a Series A company, how are they building out their team versus now they're a Series D company, they've come back to the Montgomery Summit. They're now looking more into how they are going to, hire their next CMO as they prepare for their IPO journey. So that's been a fun, task and project to work on, is appealing to our broader audience and the founders at any stage. All right, moving on to question 4.
We're making our way. Oh, this one's for you, Maddie.
Okay.
Good. Okay, so we're going to start talking about signal versus noise. With the explosion of VC-led podcasts, newsletters, and LinkedIn thought leadership, how do you ensure March Capital's voice actually cuts through the noise?
Yeah, this is the conversation that I think every platform team at a VC firm is having right now. The question about how do we create quality content? How do we distribute that to our audience? Where do we put it? What's important, what's not? And we personally at March Capital have spent a lot of time thinking about this lately, our brand presence and how we show up on LinkedIn. I think that when we create LinkedIn content, or when we speak about our March Capital investment philosophy externally, we keep authenticity as, the guiding light. And also, no one wants to read another AI hot take. And so we found, success with speaking through our investment team and having them bring in their personal voices and their personal takeaways and learnings into everything that we write and everything that we put out. It's been really fun, to work under our co-founder and managing partners, Jamie Montgomery and Sumant Mandal, who have been technology investors for decades, who have seen multiple waves of, the technology cycles, have invested in many companies who have been quite successful and some who maybe haven't been as successful. And it's been a great opportunity as a platform and a marketer, platform team and as a marketer to, tell their story via this LinkedIn content. And we've seen that that's resonated really well with the audience and with the community. And it's been fun to help them prepare for, their own speaking opportunities at different conferences in the ecosystem or podcasts like this, because they have a wealth of knowledge and, are great mentors to all of us and to the companies that they, support.
And I'll say we've leaned into long form, and that's worked well for our voice. It matches our brand. We can really kind of get thought leadership across, both ours and, content that comes out of the summit from our community. But then we also package it up into short form. So you can get those quick sound bites. You can absorb some of the message and then take a deeper dive if you want.
We have a very young team, and I think that that result has been short form content.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been fun. Okay, moving on to question 5. Moving to speak about AI in the marketing stack. March is heavily focused on AI. What is one way AI has fundamentally changed how you manage firm operations or portfolio support in 2026?
I don't know if there's one way. The one way is everything.
Yeah.
Right? So our team in particular has been heavy users of AI, at least for the last year. We do a lot of content creation. So, you in particular use some tools.
There's great content creation tools. We use Opus Clip at the firm for our short form content. We use one of our portfolio companies, Canva, every single day, which has allowed us to create, design at scale quickly. They're coming out with new AI capabilities every day. It's amazing. Yeah. It's been a huge differentiator for our team. Yeah.
And then I think beyond the marketing piece, we started with Perplexity and ChatGPT and more recently rolled out Claude firm-wide, and that has absolutely been a game changer. So we are day in and day out in Cowork throughout everything we do. I don't know what I do now where I don't use AI, which is pretty phenomenal. And Claude's been so good because of all of its connectors. We use it with Affinity in particular. A lot of what we do around network, that data lives in Affinity. And so having that interface where we can query and update and like pull insights from our CRM really easily has been amazing.
Yeah, our team jumped up and down when the Affinity MCP was released.
We literally did.
Yeah.
We literally did. So that's been great. We've also learned how to create our own MCPs to connect our various databases and make sure that data is flowing appropriately. But I'd say one thing we adopted, and we learned this from another venture fund, we were at the VC Platform Summit in San Diego, and we kind of adopted this approach, is we kicked off in our team an AI sprint, and we're about to finish it this week. We spent 6 weeks. Each person was owner of one workflow, and week in and week out, we'd have touch points to touch base on progress, if we were hitting any blockers, if we needed to pivot. And at the end of the 6 weeks, we can look back and see some really substantial changes our team has made to the way we operate, whether it's, re-platforming because we found a better platform that has better integrations, fixing our infrastructure, and ultimately changing the way we output, things that we do repeatedly throughout the year. It's been awesome.
Okay, next question.
Okay.
The Montgomery Summit strategy. March Capital runs the Montgomery Summit, which is a massive undertaking. From a marketing perspective, what is the ROI of a world-class event that people in private capital often overlook?
Yes, this is something I feel very strongly about, that there's no substitute for in-life interaction, right? People crave that in person, and especially as we move more and more into an AI world, I think that's just going to increase. So the ROI, I think what people miss is they expect to see an outcome immediately. And sometimes that does happen, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But sometimes it really takes a while. And so the Montgomery Summit is all about relationships, and those are really authentic relationships that we build over a long period of time. So one example, we have a series of presenting companies that come to the summit every year. This year, we looked at 700 companies. We ended up putting 120 on stage. And those are groups like Gamma, Lovable, Field AI, Together AI, Lila Sciences, names you may or may not have heard of, but really kind of emerging category leaders in the private world. Those 120 companies, some of them are immediate opportunities for us. Some of them are portfolio companies. So it's a big part of the sourcing effort we do every year with the investment team. So maybe we have a half dozen active opportunities that are immediate follow-ons, and maybe some of those companies become portfolio companies. Great, immediate ROI. But I think what's even more interesting is the long term. So the best example there, 2005, way before me or you at March Capital, we put George Kurtz on stage. He pitched. He kicked off a long-standing relationship with March, and in particular, our managing partner, Jamie Montgomery. That was before George Kurtz ever founded the company we now know as CrowdStrike. George starts CrowdStrike. We end up investing in the Series D in 2017, the Series E the year after, and the year after in 2019, CrowdStrike goes public. That was a $66 million investment that we made all in. It generated billions in wealth for our LPs. We didn't know that back in 2005. We didn't know where that relationship would go. We just knew George was great, and so we wanted to keep him close. You look at that today, our investment has 75 times where we started. The value of that stock is in the neighborhood of $5 billion today. It went up 70% in the last month. You just can't predict that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But that's the ultimate ROI, but it takes lots of different shapes.
Completely. And, the Montgomery Summit has served as a, environment that the whole ecosystem, gathers around. And one thing that, we as a firm at March Capital, view as success is the learnings from, gathering our corporate partners, other VCs in the space, the top founders of the, latest technology company, and put them on, stage and in panels and fireside chats. We're, also collecting information and learning from our peers that ultimately informs March Capital's investment theses, that leaves founders with lessons learned for how they can, scale their company, and also welcomes, investors to learn about a technology vertical that they haven't yet invested in, but might. Mm-hmm. So, we learn a lot that informs our thought leadership for the entire year over these 2 days. All right, moving on to the team investment philosophy. March Capital's philosophy says when we invest as a team. how do you translate that internal culture into an external brand that makes the founder feel like they have an entire army behind them instead of just one GP?
Yeah, we do operate as a team, and I think VCs that operate this way perform better in the long term. So as a platform team, we're super integrated with the investing team. We have a Monday meeting where we talk about the portfolio all together. There's a lot of information flow across the firm. And that matters because you have a board member who is in the flow of information from a portfolio company. You think of us as the execution layer. So maybe they share their top prospects for the quarter. We're going to execute on that. We're going to make sure those people are in the right room sitting next to the founder. We're going to make sure we reach out directly to to make an intro for our company. So founders know us. And beyond that, I would say we have a many-to-many relationship. So it's not just the board member talking to the founder, but I'll pick on our team again, we're talking to the head of sales, the CRO, the CMO, the head of partnerships, the head of comms. We're amplifying their news. We're helping them with their sales and their business development. We're getting creative about how they can talk about themselves in the marketplace and go to market. And that's super helpful. It's really efficient. We learn a lot about the companies. They get more direct support from us. And, that's better for everyone involved.
Yeah. Platform and marketing at March Capital is not a back of house job. It's front and center and at the table with the investment team.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Marketing to the LPs. How does a strong firm brand help with capital formation and LP trust? What is the brand of a durable firm?
So I think our approach to interacting with our LPs and working with our capital formation team is just one of transparency and honesty, right? So our LPs come to our annual meeting. It's at the Montgomery Summit. We try to show them, not just tell them about our network, show them the companies, not just tell them on paper how they're performing. So they hear from the founders directly. They get to sit down after the meeting and have lunch with them. They get to go to their panel. They get to have a drink with them in the evening. They get that hands-on, firsthand experience. Right. And that goes a long way. I think another thing we pride ourselves on is on that honesty point. We tell our LPs when things are up and to the right and things are going great, but we also tell them when they're not. And we're upfront about that. We don't try to hide it. And so our LPs look at us and they know that when we tell them our stories, we're telling them the honest stories. I think that goes a long way. Startups don't always go up and to the right in a linear fashion. It's a journey. And if you're in this world, you know that. And so we share the whole journey with our LPs. And they're along for the ride with us. They're phenomenal. Yeah. In terms of durable, 13 years in, 4 funds, you can see the cycles we've gone through and how we've continued to, stick to our discipline around pricing and our focus areas, but also be able to evolve with the times, as we touched on earlier. Many of our partners have been at the firm for the long term. You look at the portfolio, there's now a ton of household names in that, from CrowdStrike, as we mentioned, to Together AI, Lila Sciences, Unifor.
Canva.
Exactly. That's durability. You look at the team, what we invest in, what the portfolio looks like. That's kind of the first layer of durability. And then you come into the fold and you get to experience March Capital and the summit with us. And then you actually, you're on the ground floor with the network.
Right. And adding on to that, I would say that our LPs are integrated into every, thing that we do at March Capital or every event. We've have a really strong partnership with McKinsey & Company, their Quantum Black AI arm. And we've hosted, a couple of series of dinners with them where we've invited, founders in our portfolio, other companies, that we at March Capital want to foster the relationship with, corporate partners and clients of McKinsey's, but then also our investors and LPs. So everyone is at the dinner table together and mingling. Okay, moving on to the next question about measuring platform success. For the skeptics in private capital, how do you quantify the value of platform? Is there a metric or a signal you track that proves marketing efforts are actually moving the needle on a company's terminal value?
I feel like this is an age-old question in platform. So what I would say is, as a platform person, there's like 1,000 things you can do.
1,001.
Probably. Mm-hmm. So every day you have to decide, what is the most important thing to do today? And that's driven by what your portfolio needs, right? So we stop and have that conversation all the time. So do we track metrics? Yes. we have an OKR structure, objectives and key results, and that's really to keep us on track. So we have defined the 4 or 5 objective, the big picture things that matter. Those are typically qualitative. It's like what's important to the firm and the portfolio, like what is our North Star, and the idea is that everything we do should ladder up to that. Fine, that's to keep us on track. And then we have quarterly goals, which are the key results, so the metrics, and those can be quantitative. So yes, we track the number of introductions we make for our portfolio companies. We track the number of executive briefings we do with corporate partners. We track the number of events we go to. Fine. But that's not the goal, right? That's not just because you made 60 introductions for a company.
Right.
Doesn't mean that moved the needle. That's just an indicator for us to know that we're on track. We're doing the work that will ladder up to the thing that does matter. So, at the end of a founder's journey, they've hopefully had a wonderful IPO and the founders had their exit and they're sitting back and reflecting on their journey. They're not going to remember the 60 different introductions we made, but they're going to remember that 1 or 2 or 3 things that did move the needle. And so that's what we're always striving for. It's not individual tiny little metrics. That's not the end goal. But the end goal is when we make that big introduction that makes a difference.
Right.
Right.
Our goal as a platform team is to bring the community together, continue to expand the network, work with our investors to bring new people into the fold so that when our founders do call us, we have, our Rolodex we can open up for them.
Yes. Oh, okay, one for you. What's a marketing trend that you once thought was a gimmick, but you now realize is an essential tool for VC firms?
Yeah, there's a lot of marketing trends and fads out there, but I will say that I think LinkedIn is more important now than it ever has been. And it's a conversation that we're having almost every day on the team. And, when I started at March Capital 4 years ago, it was not, in our, top 3 objectives as a marketing team. There's a lot of, gimmicky content out there. People are really good at putting out, news and their thoughts and their hot takes on, the news of the day. But as mentioned earlier, I think, we want to show up as authentic and, true to our philosophy and really thoughtful in anything that we put out there. But people are going to our LinkedIn page to see what we're about. They're going to our LinkedIn page to learn about our portfolio. And so we've taken a lot of time to reflect even this spring. If anyone goes to the March Capital LinkedIn, they get to see about an event that we put on with our founders and our network and our LPs, most recently like at the Milken Global Conference. They also get to see, our portfolio news amplified on our page. So it's a good mix of, what our world looks like. And it can actually really, help keep the connection warm in between meetings, if we're trying to, continue to, engage with our LP base or prospective LP base. You get to meet with them, once a year if they're global, but you get to connect with them every single day on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is X dead?
And I think X is dead.
Hot take.
Yeah. Okay, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
What is a habit from your previous role, like when you were at Clocktower or M13, that has been surprisingly effective at March Capital?
I think it's this philosophy that you need to remain nimble. Like, kind of don't stick to your guns too much, right? You have to continue to evolve with the world around you. So I think just being fluid in the role is really important. And, at the pace of the news cycle and innovation, things we're doing in Claude Cowork weren't possible 3 months ago. And with the series of mega IPOs coming up, the capital world around us is going to completely change again, right? We don't know what's going to happen with Anthropic and OpenAI and SpaceX and Databricks and Cerebras. It's going to be a banner year, and it'll be exciting to see. So I guess it's just remaining fluid.
Right.
And rolling with the punches.
The role of platform also shifts as, the firm makes new and different investments, and those companies and founders need different things from us at March Capital. Mm-hmm. So nimble is the right word.
That's the right word.
All right. And moving on. What's a piece of advice that's changed how you think about community in the business world?
Yeah, similar to the story I told about CrowdStrike at the summit, and I've experienced this a lot personally in my career, is that you just never know where relationships are going to go. Right? So you and I work together today. I don't know what our relationship's going to look like 8 years from now. Hopefully we're still doing this.
Yeah, we're still doing this.
But people come around. And so I would say when you approach relationships, take them very seriously, right? Everyone in your community is important. Really get to know them on an authentic human level, understand who they are, what their interests are, what their ambitions are, what they care about, because you just never know. Maybe it's someone you're going to work directly with immediately, and maybe it's someone that will come around several years down the line in a way you didn't expect. And that's happened several times, especially in this kind of venture startup world where people circulate around each other. You never know when a chief of staff that just started one of your companies is going to be the CEO of the next company you invest in.
Completely.
So just keep relationships strong. It should be an active part of what you do day to day.
We've seen that time and time again at the Montgomery Summit with entrepreneurs that have attended over the 24 years. That's like George Kurtz that started at one company that came back to the summit to present with a different company that then sold that company or starting a new thing. You know, these are serial entrepreneurs that you never know what's next for them. And they're really exciting to keep within the network and keep within the fold. I would say, you know, a piece of advice that has changed how I think about community in the business world has actually come from, you know, spending a lot of time and, many hours of meetings with Jamie Montgomery, whose own mentor was Charlie Munger, the Charlie Munger. And he has reiterated to our team this idea of building, you know, a seamless web of trust. And that is really our role as platform. You know, we are the stewards of, you know, the network of March Capital. And we've created a community via the Montgomery Summit that is really strong, that shows up time and time again, and is truly like one of the hearts of the innovation economy. So that's one that I come back to.
Yeah, I like that. A seamless web of trust.
Yeah. All right, Melissa, I heard that it's time for the lightning round.
Okay.
So here we go.
Here we go.
All right. Events or newsletters, which is more effective for deal flow in 2026?
Events.
Events, hands down. LinkedIn or X, where is the real VC conversation happening right now?
You know, I'm a nerd and I love LinkedIn.
We said it earlier, X is dead.
X is dead. Sorry.
The CMO of a startup, is it the most difficult job in the C-suite?
I don't know if it's the most difficult, but it definitely has the potential to be super impactful. And we see that in our portfolio. The CMO of ThoughtSpot completely integrated AI into everything they do, and it's having a huge impact.
AI-generated content, a massive time saver or brand killer?
Time saver, when done well.
Yes, it has to be done well, but we've seen it save hours of our team's time. And the final question, what do you want founders who have never heard of March Capital to walk away with after listening to this episode?
That we're a great partner. You'd love to work with us.
Yeah, and to come to the Montgomery Summit 2027 on March 9th and 10th.
Thanks so much to Affinity for having us. This was really fun.
And if you like this content, make sure to subscribe to Affinity Presents on YouTube.
Thank you.